Yeah. Okay. Okay. Should launch in
Okay.
be launch.
So you're calling from New York?
I'm calling from New Jersey.
Oh, so you're home today?
So weird. Yeah, I'm home today.
Oh, then you could have just come
visiting
to
my
the office.
family. Oh yes, yeah. I'm sorry we didn't think about that. But I'm almost. The video call is almost ready.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know.
Sorry about that.
I thought the reason we were having a video call was because you were going to be in New York, but it doesn't matter. It's this way.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think the video call is almost as good
yeah, the
as
reason I like video call is that I'm going to be recording it, so I have to let you know so that you can then we can both view it afterwards, so that you don't have to jot down a lot of notes. Because I want you to see how you're performing, so that this time you get to see. And are there before we get going, how did your other interviews go? What went well and what you could have done better?
Are you referring to my inverse input interview?
Yeah, last time when we spoke was last Friday, not this, was maybe a week ago, and you said there was an interview was a phone interview at 11:30, and then you had a face-to-face at 2 o'clock where you were going to be meeting with the CEO and a COO, and then there was another interview on Monday or Tuesday that you were talking about, and then I didn't get any update on any of those interviews. So if you don't mind, just kind of.
I'm more than happy to give you. Sorry, Zoom is being. I am so sorry. I don't know. I have to install Zoom. I don't know what's going on with it. I'm opening it and it keeps on crashing.
Oh, really? Because I know. It seems pretty easy, right? Zoom is like one of the easiest. You have a Macintosh or?
I have a Mac. Yeah, you think it'd be easy. Every time I'm opening it.
Okay, if not, then we'll just do a phone, because I don't want to spend too much time.
I'm so sorry. I hope, is this okay?
Yeah, that's fine. I'm recording it, so now I can't see your face, but since I've already seen you, I mean, the whole purpose of doing the video was for your benefit, so that later on you could review it and see how you're coming across, because that was the whole point of the mock interview, so that you would get to see yourself, to see that you don't have like an awkward smile or a twitch or anything like that could kind of create somebody to focus on that, so that's why video
it's frustrating. It keeps crashing for some reason.
All right, then let's just forget about it. So why don't you just update me on those other interviews, and are there specifically, before we get started, because this is really, because I don't want to like ask questions that you're not being asked. So like, are there any specific kind of questions that you feel that you're having difficulty answering, and maybe I can ask you so I can get an input on how you're answering them, so that we can then work on them?
Yeah, well, it's not, I get asked every interview, are you still working at Den of Geek? And I've been telling every interview that I still am, and I'm doing it because I want to be a more appealing candidate. And unfortunately, it does involve me stretching the truth. But I'm wondering when you think I would have to, when it'd be mandatory pretty much for me to start just letting people know that I don't work at Den of Geek anymore.
Yeah, we can talk about that. I think we talked about that last time. But if you, if you feel uncomfortable that they will eventually, because here's a concern that I have that I'm going to raise with you, that if they ever check and they find out that you no longer work for them, then that could be grounds for not hiring you.
That would be, I mean, more than, they'd fire me on the spot if they found out.
Yeah, so the question is that I'm of the opinion.
Oh, I'm sorry, I joined by video.
I'm hearing an echo.
Oh, you hearing me?
Yeah, I'm hearing you, but I was hearing an echo. I see your name.
Can you hear me
come
now?
up. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Can you hear me? Hello?
Okay. Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah,
I can hear you.
yeah, something weird just happened. Now I'm seeing your name. Okay, I guess that's the way Zoom works. I'm seeing your name, Spencer Mullen here.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm trying to put. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I'm trying to put my face. I don't know why the camera. There should be a camera. How do you
There's a control in Zoom that allows you to
start video?
turn on the camera. It's
So
probably
does it start video?
it's probably X'd out. You might have to un-exit so that way I can
Yeah.
see you.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Okay.
Oh, there you are. We see each
Yeah,
other. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, I'm really happy about that. So, I'll basically give you a rundown of what happened.
Right. Before you do
the
that,
bad news first.
yeah, before you do that, what I was saying was this is the thing that we were just discussing before this camera issue came up. That if
Yeah.
you tell them that you're not working, you're currently working at Den of Geek, and then you give some reference, somebody at Den of Geek, which you may have to, and they check with them, and they be like, so by the way, what do you feel about him leaving while he's still working there? And they'll say, oh no, he's not working there. He left in December.
I would fire that person on the spot if I was in their shoes.
Then the company is good, because that I've seen that happen. So the question is, you need to be upfront with them that you're no longer working at Den of Geek, and they will understand as long as you can explain them. They had a downturn or something, right? They had
it had nothing to do with my performance. It had nothing to do with my performance.
So tell
everything
them,
to do with.
because that happened to my daughter. She was working at Mashable, and the company just imploded, and she was let go, and she was crying that, oh, Dad, I worked so, because I told her to leave, and she didn't. She said, no, I'm going to tough it out. And then they let her go, and she was devastated. And I said, look, when you apply for new jobs, just tell them that Mashable just imploded. And in her case, they made a mistake, actually. In her case, they made a mistake. They were not supposed. I'm sorry?
Oh, I'm sorry. What were you going to say?
In her case, they made a mistake. They were not supposed to let her go. Because when they're fighting a lot of people, somehow things fall through the cracks, and they found out that she was not supposed to be one that was supposed to be let go. So then they contacted her again saying, hey, by the way, we made a mistake. Would you like to come back? And my daughter was like, oh, now that you let me go, if I'm coming back, you're going to have to give me a better position. Otherwise, what's the point of me coming back? Now I've already gone through all this pain of being let go. So they said, no, we really can't do that. So then she decided not to go back.
And what did she do at Mashable? I'm sorry to get off topic.
No, she's not at Mashable anymore. She's at Business Insider.
And what does she do there?
She's in the marketing position.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
That's something that I would like to do. I would love to talk to her. I think that'd be great.
I can certainly connect you with her. She's in New York, so what I can do is, and maybe you may be able to just have a conversation with her, and maybe send your resume to her, see if they have an opening for opening it, because they seem to be hiring quite a lot of people.
They've had. I've seen several openings at Business Insider. That'd be great if you could give me your contact information later.
Yeah, I'm going to be seeing her today. I'm going to be seeing her today, so I will check with her and see.
I really appreciate that.
And also, I will find out if there's another. She has a lot of friends. To find out if there are any other friends who work at different companies, and maybe she can forward your resume to them.
I would really appreciate that.
But the first thing is just have a quick conversation with her, so like I'm out of the loop in a way, because I'll just introduce her to you, and then you guys can kind of take it from there. Okay?
Yeah, I do have 2 years of social media and marketing experience, so I do think, I am definitely qualified for like a social media business insider. Yeah.
Just to kind of just talk about, what are you doing at Business Insider? This is something I'd like to do, and what are some things you've done? And then she can say, okay, I think there's a position that would be fit for you. Because once you talk to her, she might look into it. Because my daughter's the kind of person who will go out of her way to help people.
That's great. That's really great.
So, and also it's good for you to network with somebody who's doing marketing work. All right. So I'm sorry, Gus, you were updating me on your interviews that you had.
So bullion exchanges was a mixed bag. I'll let you know straight up. I do not think I got the job. The reason I don't think I got it was because we had to write the main reason I got it had nothing to do with my poor interviewing skills. It had everything to do with my writing sample. On bullion exchanges, we had to submit writing samples, and one of the writing samples was to write about a coin. I got the price of a coin wrong. I used a reference that was outdated, and because the price of coins fluctuate. And they straight up told me, like, you're supposed to be this, content marketing manager. It's a specialist manager position. And if you make a mistake like that and we put it up on the website, we could get sued. We could get hit with a lawsuit. So they seemed pretty annoyed with my couple of errors during the writing samples, but it was a coin company, so I wasn't particularly excited about that. The good news was about Inverse Input. So it was the social media editor for 2 positions. That's a company I really wanted to work for. They really liked me, and on Friday, I submitted my writing assessment for them. It took me days to complete. It took me hours to complete. In addition to writing a bunch of mock tweets for them or mock Facebook posts, I also had to pitch ideas for Instagram story ideas, contest or giveaway ideas. I also had to talk about the brands that I really liked and what strategies I can incorporate with them for Mashable and Inverse and Input. Sorry. I won't make that mistake during the interview if I have another one of Inverse and Input. But I definitely, the bullion exchanges thing was too bad. I wasn't particularly passionate about it, though. The Inverse Input thing I'm much more excited about. I spent a lot of time working on the writing assessment, so I hope it works out. And the fact that they reached out to me again shows an interest. And also the Brooklyn Solar Works thing, I'm gone. I quit the company.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that wasn't a surprise, because I think that was causing you a lot of pain, physical pain.
Ankle pain. Yes, yeah. It was up until it was causing me ankle pain. I thought to myself, this job is annoying. It's not what I want, but it's manageable. When I was waking up every day in pain, I was like, no, I'm gone. I can't do this anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of look at it. I mean, that's why I think you made the right decision there. I mean, sometimes you have to tough it out, but if it's like just causing all kinds of pain where you just can't function, it's just not, life is too short to have a job that's just not worth it,
Absolutely.
So let me ask you this. Let me ask you this question. I mean, I'll just throw it out at you because I'm here to help you out. If there's any writing sample that you want somebody to take a look at, just send it to me. I'll take a look at it, because I have a very good success with helping people when it comes to writing.
That's great.
I recently, and again, not that I've written a book, because typically when you write a book, it's not really your writing. It's the editor that does all the job, that cleans up things. So I just want to make it clear that I'm not saying I'm a great writer. I'm not a great writer or anything, but I'm just saying that when you get somebody else to look at it, it makes a difference. And
I really do wish, even though I spent days working on the writing assessment for Inverse Input, but I definitely.
Well, if you don't mind, can you send me both of those samples? The one you wrote for Bullion, it's up to you. Bullion Exchange and also Inverse Input, and I'll take a look at it. And if I have any comments,
I will. I'll send both. I definitely understand the point of sending Inverse and Input, but as for the one at Bullion Exchanges, seems very unlikely I'm going to get the job. But if you do want to take a look at both, you can.
I just want to take a look at it, not because you're going to get the job, just to see what did your writing look like. So maybe I can.
My writing is very good. It's substantially improved since college. I wish I wrote like that the way I did in college, especially the first 3 semesters. As for the Inverse Input job, most of it was writing tweets, writing fake tweets, writing fake Facebook, Instagram posts. But some of it was writing about the best brands to take away from, and what Instagram story ideas we should do. Because Input was a consumer brand technology publication, my idea, and because Throwback Thursday posts are very popular, TBD posts are very popular, my Instagram story idea, which I think is a good one, it is a Throwback Thursday series on a weekly basis Input comes out with Instagram story that chronicles a big anniversary for the history of consumer tech. So
right.
it takes
how many? I'll take a look at it and see if it, because I'm not somebody who's in this industry. So if it makes sense to me, then I'm pretty sure that that was a. And how many words was this article?
It was the entire writing assessment.
Yeah.
The entire writing assessment, including photos, and I had to include pictures. It was about 5 pages.
Oh, really? They made you write 5 pages? Okay.
I included a lot of photos, a lot of pictures.
Oh, okay. But words, you don't know how many words?
I'm going to tell you right now.
That's okay. Just estimate. I'm not looking for some specific number.
I think it was around 900.
It's about 1,000 words.
Yeah, I'm going to double
You can't write too much, otherwise nobody's going to read it.
No, I kept it short for some of it. Okay, I'm going to check. Okay, I'm going to check the word count for both. Okay, so the bullion exchanges, which I got paid for the bullion exchanges trial tasks. I didn't get paid for the inverse one. Bullion exchanges, the word count is finding out now. Well, there are 2 tasks for bullion exchanges. And it had to be over 1,000 words.
1,000 words. Okay, that's what I thought. More than 1,000 wouldn't make.
And for inverse input, it was 1,000 words as well.
Yeah, 1,000 words usually. Yeah, right. Because people can pretty much assess based on after a few hundred words how good a writer you are. Okay, great. So inverse input is still alive. Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, oh, okay, now you're back. Somehow your
sorry about that.
Your screen froze. I don't know what's going on.
I'm really sorry about that. Yeah.
Okay, no, it's not your fault. It's just the internet or something. Okay, as long as we know we have a bad connection. Okay. All right, now it's good. So is inverse input still alive?
Inverse and input are both 2 social media, both of 2 tech publications. I sent my writing assessment on Friday, and obviously it's been the weekend, so I'm waiting to hear back from what Rummy has to say. And Rummy is the director of social at Bustle Digital Group, and Bustle Digital Group is the owner of both input and inverse. Oh, so obviously, yes.
So the company's one company or 2 companies? Inverse and input, are they one company or 2 companies?
There are 2 tech publications that are owned by Bustle Digital Group.
Okay, so there's one called Inverse and the other one is called Input.
There are 2 tech publications, and their parent company is Bustle Digital Group.
Bustle, B-U-S-T-L-E? No, B-U-S-T-E-L? Mm-hmm. Bustle Group. Okay.
B-U-S-T-L-E.
T-L-E, Bustle.
Yeah.
Bustle Group. Okay.
And I worked really hard. On that. Obviously, if I don't get it, it's not the end of the world, but it would be very frustrating because I certainly put more effort into that job application.
Yeah, no, I'd like to take a look at it, not as a criticism, but just as somebody. Has anybody, did you get any help with editing that at all, or you just pretty much did everything yourself? Again, I can't hear anything. Hey, Spencer, I can't hear anything. Maybe we should just go to audio since...
I did everything by myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no, what I was saying was somehow your screen freezes and I can't hear you. So I'm just wondering, maybe it's better to just go to audio.
Yeah, sorry, the screen is freezing too. I don't think the connection's too... Should I move to a different place? Do you want me to move to a different area?
I mean, do you have a broadband or are you using some kind of telephone line? What is going on?
I'm using my Wi-Fi at home.
Oh, okay.
I can move to a different.
Right.
Okay, I'm just gonna check what Wi-Fi I'm on.
Yeah. It seems like
what?
The room you were in didn't look like you had a good bandwidth there, a decent bandwidth, because it kept on freezing.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't have a problem because I have a gigabit here. In my office, I have a gigabit, so I'm pretty sure that.
Yeah, I'm really sorry about that.
No. That's okay. That's okay. These things happen. Sometimes these internet, like at home, I'm supposed to get gigabit, but I'm not even getting 80 megabits.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, it's frustrating, but hopefully this room is better.
Yeah. This is better. If you're closer to the Wi-Fi, then it'll be, because sometimes these rooms, the signal gets attenuated, so you don't get the same signal. You have to do the speed test. All right, this is much better. Are you standing or you can sit down?
I'm standing right now, but if I'm good right now, but if
okay, I don't want you to get tired. Okay.
No, I won't be. But
okay.
So even though it is a bit frustrating, I left Brooklyn Solar Works. I only have like $250 left in my bank account, so like very little.
Right. But, no. I understand. You've gone through difficult times, but I think it's making you tougher, and I think you have a good perspective. Like I said, I think your overall attitude is very positive, which I like.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I do want to let you know I have gotten bullion exchanges. I made it to the final round of interviews. Emblem Health, I think it's a final round interview. I went through several phone conversations. Now I'm in the final round. Inverse Input, I submitted the writing assessment. I'm waiting to hear back, but I would be surprised if I didn't get a follow-up for the final round.
Right.
So I am getting to the final round of these interviews. I didn't get bullion exchanges, but I am making it very far. It's a huge difference between last year and this year. Is that I am getting far more interviews.
No, that's good. Something is definitely going to happen. I think you're learning a lot about yourself. But do you think that if you hadn't made that mistake with the coin, that the bullion exchanges would have been still alive, or there was something else?
Yeah, getting the reference wrong was a pretty major mistake. I'm actually surprised they invited me for a final round interview, because you could get, apparently, according to them, they could get hit with like a lawsuit, and the CEO was berating me about it. But it's a coin. Obviously, you hope that you're going to get a job. You hope that it's going to work out. But if it doesn't work out, the only thing you can do is just keep on going forward. But at the same time, if I didn't get the Inverse Input job because I spent days working on it, it would be rather more frustrating than usual.
Okay. All right. So let's. So do you want to get to the mock interview? By the way, I'm looking at your old resume. I didn't get the up-to-date resume. Is that old resume still valid, or there's some, because it has Den of Geek as your experience? Or was there something different in your updated resume?
No, my Den of Geek is part of my experience, so it must be my newest resume.
Okay, because it has it that you were there from January 2018 to present, so that's current.
Oh, I still need to. I need to say that I need to write January 2020. So it doesn't need to be updated.
Oh no, that's fine. No, I'm saying the one that when you sent it, you were still working there. That's why.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that you haven't made any kind of changes in your resume that I need to look at before we.
No,
I think for this one. All right, so let's get started. Let me look at the time. We're gonna do like half an hour, so maybe we can start in. So before that, we'll start in a couple of minutes. Are there any questions that they ask you? You said one question they ask you, are you still with Den of Geek, that presents some
that's the most important one. A lot of the questions have to do with prior work experience. A lot of the questions have to do with, have you done any research on the company? That's a very big deal.
Yeah.
If you haven't done any research on the company, they will not have any interest in you immediately. So they have dozens and sometimes hundreds of candidates to consider, And a good way of wheedling people out, in their view, is who's done the research on the corp and who hasn't. You know,
that makes sense. That makes sense. So how do you go about doing research? Do you just go on internet, or do you also speak to the recruiter?
I almost always go on LinkedIn, almost always go on the company's websites. I had a startup interview on Friday that I'm very optimistic about. In that case, I created an account with the startup because the startup was a website where you can create an account. And I did that, and I looked a little bit all around the website, which was actually a startup too. And I think that interview went very well. So
great.
Tell when you've done the research, and when it's that is a crucial factor in getting a second one.
Do you ever contact anybody from LinkedIn? Do you have like a regular LinkedIn, or you have premium? What kind of LinkedIn account do you have?
I used to have premium, but I can't afford it now. So I just have LinkedIn.
Right. They charge like what? It's the premium is like $500 or something, right?
It is $30 a month, I think.
Yeah, because I don't have premium anymore. I had it because I didn't see any value. I didn't see any value in having premium, so I got rid of it. So far I'm not missing it. So I haven't upgraded it yet. They keep sending me these messages. Please upgrade. But I don't see any value in upgrading. But do you contact anybody from that company on LinkedIn to do your research?
When I apply to a position, there's the option to contact someone who also works there after you apply to the position. So in some cases, I have done that.
Yeah, it's kind of hit or miss. Some will be nice enough to respond, and some will just ignore you. So you don't take it personally when people don't respond. Okay, so that's the research. Well, in this case, since I don't have a particular job description, I'm not going to ask you that question. So these questions are going to be more about allowing you to kind of tell your story.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to hear it. So should we get started? It's about 2:30, so we'll do for half an hour.
Yeah.
Okay, so you said remember I said that I was going to ask you a question and you were going to try to give me your opening statement to kind of set the stage. So
I remember that, yeah.
Okay, so go. We're starting now.
Okay. Well, my name is Spencer Mullen. I went to NYU. I studied courses such as consumer marketing, evolutionary psychology. I worked as a social media coordinator for Den of Geek for 2 years. We saw an enormous amount of growth on all of Den of Geek's social media channels in terms of both followers and in engagement. And as a marketer and content writer, my main interest is helping companies grow and achieve the results that they want. In addition to having 2 years of social media marketing experience, I also have blogging experience, content writing experience, experience with Google Analytics and Sprout Social, whether it's web traffic data or social media data. I'm highly skilled with, in addition to social media platforms, Adobe Photoshop and other photo imaging tools. I think that I have a lot of skills that could ultimately benefit whatever company I'm working for, and I'm interested in whether it's a startup or a multinational corporation. I think that I would be a valuable addition to any place.
Great. So that's a good intro.
Thank you.
What is the one thing that you feel that you do really well?
I like to think that I'm a good interviewer, and I'd like to think that I have very good time management. Obviously, it's very different, but I also like to think I have very good time management skills. If you're asking me what thing I could do better on, to be honest, I could work on my listening skills, but of course, taking notes, which is one thing I learned through working, is that's something that's really helped me. And I'm always working to improve sort of the weakest aspects of my performance.
So what is the one thing that you feel that you need to improve in order to do well at work?
Absolutely, my listening skills. It was a problem early on at Den of Geek where sometimes I would misunderstand things or things would go over my head, and the way that I perfected it, the way that I got better at it was through taking notes and being able to digest feedback more appropriately and correctly.
Okay. So in companies, pretend this is a company, I work currently at a company. Mm-hmm. We like employees who are self-starters and also who can excel working in teams. Can you kind of talk about how well do you do both?
Yeah, well, I always love to take initiatives, whether it's in group projects in college or whether it was at work. I'd love to go beyond the extra mile at work. And one thing I did like I said, for a month, I went door to door for Brooklyn Solar Works, knocking on doors and going up doorsteps, trying to get people to invest in solar so they can reduce their carbon footprint and save money. And even though, Den of Geek only, eventually I got laid off because of the acquisition, I took initiative and worked at Brooklyn Solar Works, even though it was a very different job with a lot of different, required a very different skill set, but I'm definitely a self-starter who's willing to put in really hard work and give the best performance they can possibly give.
Good. If Den of Geek suddenly gets funding, I know they got acquired, so they looked like didn't have the funding, or they wanted to make some changes. But if they had funding, do you think they would hire you back again?
Yes, they were consistently impressed with my performance. Like I said, though, when I started off Den of Geek, I had a lot of learning to do. I have a lot of experience, a lot of training to do, and over the 2 years I worked at Den of Geek, I consistently got better as a social media marketer, and they're very happy with my performance at the end.
So after you've been working, you worked at Den of Geek for 2 years, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah.
In those 2 years, what did you learn that you did not know before you joined Den of Geek, that you feel like that you learned something very important about? You mentioned quite a few things about marketing that you got exposed to at Den of Geek. So what are some of the things that you learned by working at Den of Geek?
Well, Den of Geek was an incredible learning experience. I learned, in addition, how to effectively market and utilize social media platforms and Google traffic data and web traffic and social media data. I really learned how to utilize data to tell a convincing story. For instance, one thing that I did at Den of Geek was pitch growth to editors. That's part of the job. That was part of the job description. And while I was working at Den of Geek, I realized that articles that would do enormously well on Twitter were different than articles that would do enormously well on Facebook. For instance, the articles that did enormously well on Twitter were articles that were more millennial focused or focused on shows that younger generations loved, like Steven Universe, or shows with like a cult following. And then posts that did really well on Facebook were more adult-oriented, nostalgic 80s movies posts, like posts about the movies like Labyrinth or The Rocketeer. So understanding those different audiences through data, through reading the data, helped me pitch those ideas of growth to editors and helped alter Den of Geek's social media strategy. And ultimately, I'd like to say the number one thing I learned at Den of Geek, even though I learned many things, was utilizing data, learning how to utilize data to effectively tell a story.
So can you give me an example? That's good. That's something I would like to know more about. So can you kind of walk me through an example where you, from start to finish, where you looked at the data that from different tools that you're using. And then how did you interpret that data and made some sort of analyze that data and made some kind of an assessment and then bring it to the higher ups to try something else? Can you can you help me understand how you did that? Because that's very important, because that speaks to the kind of self-starter that you are, that you saw something that others didn't see, and then that's one half the equation. Then how do you take that and then convince others that this is something they should do? So can you kind of explain that to me so I have a better understanding of that?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. In addition to publishing on social media accounts, Den of Geek, my responsibility at Den of Geek was reading and utilizing data, not just through Den of Geek's competitors, but also through Den of Geek over like the past year, or Den of Geek from a year ago. As of course, our biggest competitor, of course, was always ourselves, and trying to be a better version of ourselves. And because I worked at Den of Geek for 2 years, that allowed me a lot of time to look over data and look at our best performing articles, whether it was on Twitter and Facebook, and what was the best performing posts. And Sprout Social, of course, which is a social media management platform, allows you to take a look at data better and data analytics better. And through looking at the data on Sprout Social, I was able to see which posts were performing better than the others. And I noticed the overall trend, and that informed a report that I wrote up to the upper echelons at Den of Geek.
So what the posts were trending well? What did you find out?
Thank you for asking that. The best articles that performed on Twitter were sort of these articles, not Game of Thrones articles, not like Avengers articles, because there's already a myriad of them on Twitter and on Facebook, but articles that covered more cult shows with a millennial skewing audience, like Steven Universe or Voltron. And then on Facebook, the best articles that did well were posts for nostalgic 80s movies, which sort of underlined the argument that Den of Geek's Twitter audience was far younger than Den of Geek's Facebook audience.
Right. So you found that. So then what do you do with that? So with that information, so you ascertain certain valuable information there on who the audience really is. So then what does Den of Geek then need to do with that information, so that obviously Den of Geek is a profitable company, I assume, right? They're for profit. So how do they use that information? So they produce more content related to what the people out there are looking for, and generate more ad revenue? I mean, so at the end, why is that information so important to Den of Geek in helping them grow?
Well, Den of Geek, of course, is a business that plans on maximizing profit and revenue. And one of the things that's interesting is that, yes, of course, you should come out with as many Avengers articles as possible and many Star Wars articles as possible. But there's an oversaturation of those type of articles in the media landscape. So focusing on something with a niche cult following, but that doesn't receive as much attention from the press or the media, would actually be a much better angle to take. And that's one of the things that I advocated for while working at Den of Geek.
Okay. And did they follow on that advice, or what happened?
Oh, absolutely. After advocating for that data, there was a consistent outpour of articles focused on niche shows, millennial skewing shows like Steven Universe for the Twitter audience, and then there was a lot of more nostalgic 80s oriented posts for the Facebook audience. As the Facebook audience, we have surmised is primarily men in their 40s, and then Twitter is more female oriented in their younger 20s.
Right. You mentioned that you worked as a social media coordinator, right?
Yeah.
That was your job at Den of Geek. And the social media that you focused on was what primarily? I think you said Facebook, Twitter, and was it also Instagram?
Yeah.
which one that you found was most effective for Den of Geek? Like, what would be the percentage, if there is any, if you ever determined the percentage of business that they were generating from all of those different social media? Were you able to determine that?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. On Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, Den of Geek saw an explosion of growth over the past 2 years. On Twitter, we had 15,000 followers on Twitter. 2 years later, we had 75,000. On Instagram, we had less than 2,000. Now we have 15,000. And on Facebook, most impressively, we had less than 100,000. Now we have 350,000. I'd say Den of Geek, even though we've seen exponential growth on Instagram and a lot of growth on Twitter, Den of Geek has been primarily benefited by Facebook. And that would be our largest source of revenue in terms of generating clicks.
And how does Den of Geek make money?
Den of Geek, like a lot of media websites, makes money through ads.
Okay, so that more somebody clicks on the ads, number of clicks is how they make money. Yeah. So the content is very important for them to generate those clicks.
Absolutely.
And you would say that Facebook was number one. What percentage would that be? Like 50%, and then Instagram would be like 30%, and Twitter. Do you have any breakdown like that, or a rough breakdown?
I don't know how much we were able to monetize Instagram, because Instagram was primarily just pictures, and it was we primarily had Instagram for brand purposes, but I'd say most of the revenue was coming from Facebook and Twitter.
Right. Is Facebook primarily because this is more it's content, and Instagram is kind of difficult to display content, right? It's mostly pictorial. So
it's harder to click. Most people are less likely to click.
Right. So it's Facebook, Twitter, and then Instagram.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. How were you measured at Den of Geek? Like, before you answer that, so daily, what was your, like, I'm sure every day was different, but was there like a specific things that you focused on a daily basis?
Yes, in addition to making sure that Den of Geek had all of its social media channels active and engaged with its fans, I was also emailing Den of Geek's partners for potential social opportunities and social partnerships.
Right. And these partners you're talking about, I'm sorry, go ahead. Were you finished?
And I also worked on giveaways and contests for the brand.
Okay. And these partners are advertising partners, or what kind of partners you're talking about here?
So Den of Geek included brand partners like Mashable, like Inverse, or the Mary Sue. All of these are other media brands. And also Den of Geek would work on things such as laptop giveaways or giveaways with Fandango. So Den of Geek had a whole variety of partners that we used for different purposes.
Right. And again, the question that I had asked before you answered that was, how were you specifically measured at Den of Geek? Was based on what?
Of course, the biggest responsibility was keeping the social media channels active and engaged. If they were not active, if I was not tweeting or posting, that would be obviously be me not doing the fundamentals of my job. In addition, I had to keep up the social partnership. So I had to keep our partnerships alive and engaged.
Right. So you were basically nurturing these partnerships.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Were you trying to create new partnership? Was that part of your role?
Yes. In addition to, maintaining relationships with some partners, I had to reach out to other media brands as well for potential partnerships.
And how many partnerships did you actually form?
While I'm very happy with the relationships I maintained with all of my partner brands, I was able to make a couple of new relationships with new brands as well.
Okay. And what was your pitch to the partners that made them become partners of Den of Geek?
Well, Den of Geek has a huge following on Facebook, and it's exploded over the past 2 years, 350,000 still counting. And of course, if we do a partnership with that brand, then we will promote that brand on Twitter and on Facebook.
And that was it? That just got them saying, that sounds like what we're looking for, and then
yes,
there would be like a trial period, and then they would expand the partnership based on how much value that they
how much or how many impressions the post would get, how many clicks. That was also very important.
Right, and were there specific partners you were targeting? Obviously, depending on the content they had, you would be targeting, or there were more partners who were trying to reach the millennials? Were those the type of partners you were targeting? Because that's an important question, right? Because if you're not getting the right partners and they're not benefiting, then that partnership's going to die quickly. So what kind of specific partners that you had identified were the right type of partners for what Den of Geek provided?
So at Den of Geek, when I started the position, we already had a handful of social media partners that included the Mary Sue, another media publication, Inverse, Thrillist, and then Gizmodo. And then over the past 2 years, we included more partnerships with the websites such as the Portalist. As far as partnerships with like HP and Apple, and we even had a partnership with Team Coco. I wasn't the one that initiated them, as it was a little bit above my level, but once the partnership was initiated, I would often work with those representatives as well.
Right. So I'm going to throw this example, and not sure if it's applicable to what Den of Geek does, but I know a little bit about that I guess she's a celebrity. Her name is Kylie Jenner.
Yes, of course.
Right. So she has her company. I forgot now. She got acquired by some other company.
Coty.
And
yeah.
I'm sorry.
Coty. Coty.
Right. Coty. Right. So you're on top of it. That's good. So they want to target that particular type of. You said you have more female who read Den of Geek than male. Is that correct?
Yes.
Right. So that's their target market. Would that be somebody that you would partner with, saying that that Den of Geek will allow you to reach the type of audience that you're looking for? I'm just giving a hypothetical example. Is that the kind of partner? Would that be something you would have done there, or that would be done by somebody else?
Well, the choice of partner is extremely crucial. It's extremely extremely important to have on what type of partner you have. Getting new partners would be primarily done through the sales team, but once a partner came on board with Den of Geek, with Den of Geek, I would be there to put up social posts and maintain a relationship with.
Okay. So to basically get that partner, that would be the sales department. That would be
yes.
Okay.
Correct.
And then once they enlisted that partner, then you would get involved and come up with how they can utilize the Den of Geek platform to reach their customers. Okay. Yeah. So how closely did you work with sales?
The social media team, of course, there was 3 people, myself included. So we had a very close relationship with the sales team, and there was a lot of cross communication on the Slack channel. So when someone came onto the Den of Geek side, they would let us know immediately, and we would start working with them on creating social media posts.
Did they ever give you any ideas, and vice versa? Did you give them any ideas? Like what kind of, how did you collaborate with sales to kind of work as a team? Or these were like totally like 2 separate entities that never really gave any ideas to each other?
I think cross communication through multiple teams is sort of key to an organization's success. And the social media team would come up with certainly how many posts we're going to do for each on each platform for the partner brand. But the sales team job was to acquire the partner brand and maintain a strong relationship with them.
Right. I don't know if you answered this question, but maybe I missed it. So how were you measured?
Keeping the social media feeds active and engaged, working with partners, maintaining a relationship, helping boost the SEO or using SEO tactics to help boost the website on Google search. Essentially, my core responsibility, keeping up with my core responsibilities.
Right. And what are some of the tools that you became familiar with? Like, what are some of the tools, like social media, analytical? What are some of the tools that you would mention that you're quite familiar with? So if a company wants to suddenly ask your advice, like, hey, Spencer, we need to do better analysis, you'd be able to provide them some kind of an input based on your experience with some of these tools that you used at Den of Geek. So can you speak to that? What are some of the tools that you became kind of good with while working at Den of Geek?
Thank you for asking. As I said, Den of Geek was an incredible learning experience where I learned more about TweetDeck, which we used on Twitter, Facebook, which we used on Business Facebook, Instagram, and on Instagram we used Sprout Social, and we also used Facebook and Twitter sporadically on Sprout Social as well. So I think Sprout Social was an incredibly important social media management platform for me to use, and I also used Google Analytics, Adobe Creative Cloud for photo image editing. So all of those things were extremely important.
Did you do anything with video?
No, but I did upload video.
But is that something like video editing? Because it seems like Den of Geek did a lot of work. They do a lot of video, right? So you didn't get involved with. Was that something you'd be interested in getting involved with, or you don't really have much interest?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm always interested in learning new skills and helping companies grow.
Based on your experience at Den of Geek, what do you think they did better than anybody else based on your experience there? And the second question to follow up on that is, what are the areas that you think they needed to improve in order to continue their growth?
Well, I think, of course, Den of Geek had incredible writers. We had a great writing team that wrote really good content. Of course, a media brand can't really grow if it doesn't have great content. Den of Geek had a great strategy of both organic marketing and paid search and paid marketing, which was really effective and really helped us grow. One of the things that I think we could have worked on was, that's a good question. I think we didn't really start, ramping up on Instagram until about a year into my job at Den of Geek, where we weren't posting but now we're posting much more actively on Instagram. And also we could have used other social media channels more prevalently, like Pinterest or TikTok, we could have taken advantage of emerging social media trends.
Okay, great. So you've now been doing marketing for 2 years?
Yeah.
2 years. So why do you like marketing, and what specific area of marketing that you feel you're the strongest in?
Oh, thank you for asking that. I really like social media marketing because it involves me to utilize some of my creative sides, like writing captions, like I said, writing captions and using the creative side of my brain. And it also allows me to sort of create a conversation and reach a lot of people. And even though it might be just a tweet or it might just be a post, I'm affecting a lot of people, and hopefully in a positive way. And that's one of the things that really gets me. Also, social media is such a powerful tool in affecting people's minds that I think it's really important.
Great. One of the things that's important at work is communication. Can you kind of talk about your communication style? Why don't then I have another question. So talk about your communication style. How do you communicate with people? Communication is not just face-to-face anymore. There are different ways of communicating, but kind of speak to how you like to communicate with people at work.
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's extremely important to be direct and to be friendly when you do have bad news to give someone else, even though you might not want to be direct. I think it's better in a lot of cases if you are direct. At the same time, you want to make the office a safer and happier place for people there. So it's good to have a friendly, positive attitude, and that's what I try to replicate when I'm working.
Right. Based on what you see, your experience in college, and then, who are some of the companies you would say they really do marketing well? The social media marketing that you specialize in.
Oh, thank you. Well, I took several marketing classes at NYU. One of the companies they really liked was Dove, because Dove used their marketing to sort of create a really interesting conversation, take on this really interesting social topic, which was like beauty standards from the media. And they really got people involved, and they got people talking. And it's something that Unilever, which owns Dove, is definitely trying to talk about more, which I really think is brave and good in a lot of ways. Another company is Calvin Klein, because they do an effective job at interacting with influencers, whether it's micro influencers or mega influencers like Kylie Jenner or Kendall Jenner or Justin Bieber. And they really did a great job at making a decades-old fashion brand seem cool and hip and innovative with their My Calvins campaign.
Right. In a few hours, we're going to have Super Bowl. That's sort of like not only a Super Bowl, but it's also a Super Bowl for marketing. What do you think are you going to be watching the Super Bowl, not for the game, but just from the marketing aspect? Because this is like the Super Bowl for marketing. The amount of visibility, exposure they get is unrivaled. And what are specific things you're going to be looking for, especially from your expertise, which is social media? And after the Super Bowl, would you be able to tell who did the social media marketing really well based on what they did during the Super Bowl?
Oh, absolutely. You can always tell how well a social media campaign did, or a brand did, from through its social media campaign, due to the responses, whether it's from the media or whether it's from the replies below or the comments. I'm definitely going to watch the Super Bowl, but we live in an era now where more people are watching the ads on YouTube than the actual game, even though the game is still getting 100 million views.
Right. No, because I'm primarily focused on, since you are social media, that's your focus, that's what you specialize in, that are you going to be particularly looking at saying, okay, they had an ad, but then what do people do after they see that ad? How do you get them to go to the social media, to their website, and so on and so forth? Like, are they continue? I mean, obviously they want them to, a lot of people, they would like them to move either away from the game and go immediately and click on something so that conversation continues. Are you going to be seeing who did that well, so that, because remember, this is not only a Super Bowl for NFL, but it's a Super Bowl for all these companies. It's a marketing, it's a marketing Super Bowl. And sometimes that is more important than the actual game. People will forget the game after tomorrow, but they will not forget all the marketing that results from the Super Bowl.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. Who are some of the marketing people you look up to?
There are a myriad. I really like Ray Dalio, who has written extensively about the best principles of marketing. There's a lot of people who are in the business world who I look up to. Bob Iger, who's the CEO of Walt Disney. 10 years ago, they didn't own Star Wars, they didn't own Marvel, didn't own Fox, and just in a matter of a decade, he made Disney, a competing brand to the world's most dominant entertainment brand.
Right. No, I mean, are there like CMOs or some specific people who are in charge of just, I know these are great examples you gave, but I don't consider them as like a marketing, even though, but they're more like leaders, like CEOs, that type. I'm saying somebody who's in the marketing, they're known for marketing, like Ogilvy from advertising. If there's someone like that, do you know, like they made their mark in marketing? Are there any people in marketing that you can cite that you're saying, wow, they really got it, they were way ahead of their time, and maybe it's a company that does marketing, like the company that did that famous ad for Apple, 1984. Things like that. Are they like VaynerMedia? I don't know if you're familiar with them. Like, are there any companies that Gary Vaynerchuk, he's pretty successful. I heard he's going to have three commercials in the Super Bowl this year. So are there companies out there that you feel like, wow, this is the kind of, have you ever applied to VaynerMedia, by the way?
No.
No. Okay. So I'm just saying, are there any companies or individual that you feel like really get marketing, but you learn a lot from?
That is a good question. There are definitely certain companies that I think really have effectively used platforms like Instagram well, and that includes, like I said, Calvin Klein, Louis Vuitton, a lot of great fashion brands. I think there are individual marketers who I think are brilliant, who I definitely am inspired by. Adam Mosseri, who's the current head of Instagram and did marketing for Facebook. But marketing is a team kind of game. It requires a lot of group participation, and it requires people putting their heads together to come up with a really good idea. So there's a lot of corporations that I really and companies that I really admire for their great marketing.
Right. So I'm almost done. I have just two more questions, and then I'll have you give your concluding remarks if you have any. How do you stay current? Because marketing is such a fast-moving industry. It's a space that just everything is constantly changing. So how do you stay current so that you can add value to companies and bringing the latest and greatest to the company you're working for?
Well, yeah, I think there's a lot of great ways for you to stay, for me to stay ahead of the latest times. Twitter, Facebook, social media, or reading great tech publications like Inverse or Input, which place I applied for, and Wired and TechCrunch. I think that it can be definitely overwhelming, it's definitely exhausting. We live in this amazing information age. But, I know as a marketer, I have to stay ahead of the times and know about the latest trends. So
right.
Well, that's become a full-time job of my own.
Right. Are there any books on marketing that you can tell me that you read that kind of influenced you in any way?
Well, Ray Dalio wrote a book, 5 Principles of Marketing, right?
Okay. And what did you like about that book?
That is a very good question. But I can't remember.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
I remember what he wrote in it.
Yeah. That's fair. I'm just trying to find out, what are some, and what about, do you listen to any specific podcast on marketing?
Yeah, I listened to way more business podcasts last year than I do now. I don't have the time this year. It's unfortunate.
Right. All right. And any YouTube channel that you go to for marketing, to learn more about marketing?
There's a couple of good ones. There are. Marquise Brownlee, he's like a good guy about business.
Okay. So when somebody hires you, what exactly are they getting in you?
I'm someone that works around the clock. I'm someone that when I get the job, I'm going to do everything I can to represent the company's values and help them reach the results they want. I'm definitely not someone who's just going to take the position and slack off. I'm someone who's going to give it their all.
Okay, great. So at this point, you can kind of summarize and conclude on why now, and why here in this hypothetical company.
Well, I think I'm the best candidate at this hypothetical company because, like I said, I'm someone that's interested in the future. I'm someone that's interested in the latest trends in technology. I'm interested in marketing, and even more importantly, I'm interested in bettering myself, making myself the best marketer I could be, making myself the best business oriented person I could be, and then helping the company become the best that it could possibly be. And I'd love to take that company to new heights.
Okay. All right. So that's the end of the mock interview. Okay. So how do you, like, were these the kind of questions you get asked, or they are more like, I mean, obviously, since I don't have a particular company's description here, so I can't ask you any company specific things, but overall, are these the kind of questions that it seems like you answered them pretty well? So what did you think?
Except the book one. The book one was rather challenging.
You got to know that. That could come up because where somebody wants to kind of see like, hey, he said everything well, but is he scripted or unscripted? So that's like an unscripted type of where they want to get out of a script where they can throw things at you. So Spencer, tell me even like some marketers. Who are some of the marketers you like? And those are kind of like, they're easy questions, but they're not that easy because they want you to go more deep into it to see how much you can really talk about that.
Yeah, I think that was that, and I think that something like that has happened before, but I didn't handle it. I obviously handled it much better in the actual interview. Yeah. No, I'm not. These are not like trying to a gotcha question, but they're trying to find out like who are they really getting here? Is this a person who is now really prepped for this particular? But then when you take him out of his comfort zone, how well does he? Yeah, that's what they're trying to get to. Like, we take you out of your comfort zone. How well do you handle yourself? Yeah. And they're not trying to, there's no right answer there, but that's what makes it more difficult. Yeah. Like, a podcast, they want to see some depth in it. Like, the reason I like it, it's something where I want to see a passion. Like, this is a book that I would highly recommend because I learned so much here that I really didn't know. And there are a lot of these things that I constantly read different books, so they bring in new. What they're really asking you is, are you going to bring ideas from other places? Are you kind of iterative? You have an iterative mindset. Absolutely. Yeah. And that, like, otherwise, that Carol Dweck wrote this book, Mindset. There's a fixed mindset and there's a growth mindset. And what they want to see is this guy have a growth mindset? So a lot of the questions that I was asking you there was to kind of get you to think in terms of, is there a growth mindset here? Or is this guy just fixed on what he already knows, but he's not going to learn anything new? Yeah. So that's what I was trying to get to there. And you may have to work on that because those questions can get asked because they want to know, he's good at what he has done at Den of Geek, but we're not Den of Geek, we're somebody else. How do you go beyond that? Absolutely. So I really think that you need to really work on that. But overall, as far as questions, how do you think you did? I think it was a substantial improvement compared to even a year ago. At least I feel more confident. I agree. How well do you think you're coming across when it comes to, like, do you have like a kind of a framework when these questions are asked? One of the things that I do notice that I'm going to point out to you is you don't need to answer a question like right away. You can pause for a second to kind of get your thought together and then answer the question. Absolutely. It's not like as soon as I ask a question, you got to, let me just get an answer. Because the reason I'm saying that is it's not the answer that I'm looking for. It's how you answer the question is what I'm really looking for. Absolutely. So for example, if I asked you a question on something, I have this rule that a formula that I teach people when I coach these executives. It's called 1-3-1. Yeah. And 1-3-1 is, it's not a basketball defense or anything. I think 1-3-1 is also a basketball defense, but we're not talking about basketball. We're talking about how to answer a question where you start with one word. And you're saying, like, if I ask you, so Spencer, why should we hire you? And rather than just going right into the answer, you can say, well, comes down to growth. So you see, that's the one. Mm-hmm. And then from growth, there are other three words. It comes down to insight, experience, and interest, right? So there are three words now, right? Insight. You have deep insight in marketing. You have experience, and also you have experience. What is the other one? Insight, experience, and I forgot the third one that I use now. Analytics.
No. Just at the high level, right? At the high level, like why, the reason why they should hire you is growth, because you have insight into marketing, you have experience in marketing, and then the third one was something I just forgot now.
Knowledge?
Insight, doesn't matter. Anyway, the point is you get three, and then you end up summarizing again with that same word, growth.
Uh-huh.
So the reason I'm saying that is that you might be saying a lot, but if it's not structured properly, then you're losing the person. Because remember this one thing, the burden is on you. You have to make the case.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make the case for you.
Yeah.
You have to make the case. So when you're making the case, you got to be simple, you got to be clear, you got to be concise, and you got to be comprehensive in a very short amount of time.
Absolutely.
So one thing I would suggest is, like, some of these questions, I'll review this to see if you can do that because you've gone through a lot of interviews now. Each of these questions, you got to be able to hit it right, because if you don't, then what will happen is they're not going to say anything. Mm-hmm. And assuming there is no follow-ups, if there's a follow-up, then they're kind of guiding you towards an answer, right? But if I don't give you a follow-up, then I'm just going to say, look, I'm going to ask you these questions, see how you respond, because if I give you a follow-up, then I'm kind of biasing you on what's important to me. Mm-hmm. Right? So does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Does that make sense? Right. Absolutely. So even in the opening, I was I'll send you something that I think will help you. I didn't get a message from you. What was your message? Like, what is the message that you have? I got some narrative there, but I didn't get a real message on who is Spencer Mullen?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're right.
Now you did say, to be fair to you, and I'm not, this is not meant to say like a criticism. I'm just trying to see this as a way of like how I perceive it when I ask somebody. So start by giving an opening statement. The opening statement, because remember, you're going for a job here.
Yeah.
Right? They don't care what school you went to and all that. That's not that important here, because if it's important, they'll ask you. It's on your resume, right? You went to NYU. It's on your resume. So you don't want to regurgitate your resume. You're essentially telling them something that kind of embellishes or expands your, accentuates your resume by saying that I help companies grow through social media marketing.
Yeah.
That's your message, that I am maybe it's not that long, maybe it's even much simpler, that I am a social media expert or something like that. Okay. Mm-hmm. I'm a social media expert. I like to drive companies' growth by allowing them to leverage social media. Mm-hmm. Right? So that's your message, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say you said that. So why don't you say that I help companies grow by leveraging, or maybe you have a better way of putting it, but that's something that I want you to get used to saying.
I help companies grow by leveraging data.
But there's a social media component too.
Leveraging social media data.
Yeah, but leveraging social media, I help companies grow by leveraging their social media data. Okay, repeat that again.
I help companies grow by leveraging their social media data.
Okay, so that's your message now. Okay, so you got the message. Now, the next thing to do is you have to kind of make that message really, to support that message, you got to come up with a narrative that supports that message. So that means everything else you've done doesn't matter. The narrative you want to take is things that kind of adds to that. Like, where have you done that? So Den of Geek would come in, your experience in college would come in. So there will be three things you can take out. So I initially got exposed. So this is just me, based on what I know about you. I initially got exposed to this in college at NYU, where I had taken the courses that really got me excited was anything
digital
to do with
marketing and brand strategy.
Yeah, just anything to do with social media. That's what got me excited.
So, I did take a social media marketing class. I got an A in that, so that'd be good.
Right. I mean, you don't have to give them a specific name of the course, but tell them anything to do with marketing and specifically social media. That's Absolutely. Point one. Okay, so that's part of your narrative. Second is then I got to actually apply all of the things that I learned when I worked at Den of Geek, where I worked as a social media coordinator, and I did this, simple things, not too much. Okay. And then the third thing could be And now I know this is my calling. This is what really excites me. This is what I want to do. This is where I really get I really get up every day to.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. That's good.
So you've got 3 points. That's your narrative.
Mm-hmm.
You're not talking about anything else. The narrative has to support your main message, which is I help companies grow through social media data.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Then the narrative, okay? So then once you have the narrative, then people get it. Because if you just say, oh, I help companies grow through social media data, but there's no real narrative there, then that just kind of loses its impact.
So I also to talk about how I'm passionate about social media and it's my calling.
No, I mean, I'm just saying that the first thing is, how did you get started? That was through college. Okay. That's where you got exposed. So
story.
Yeah. You don't say like, oh, I got started when I was a baby and, I somehow accidentally caught Facebook. That is not relevant. Okay.
Craft a narrative. Yeah.
So narrative has to support. It's not a story you're telling. You're telling a narrative. So narrative is very targeted towards your message.
Yeah.
So the target starts from, you don't want to go too far back, starts right from college. You don't want to go to high school because it's not relevant unless there was something relevant in what you did in high school. So here it seems like you got into social media when you went to college.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, you probably use social media when you're in high school, but you don't want to get too far back because then you don't want to stomp on your narrative because you want to be clear, concise, and comprehensive. Start with college. That's where you got exposed. You got an opportunity to apply all of this stuff that you learned, and that reinforce that maybe this is what I like, and that's why I'm here because this is what I want to do. I want to take all that I've learned to help you grow because I feel this is what I'm good at.
Yeah,
that's your narrative. Does that sound like who you are?
Should I be writing this down?
No, I have it videotaped.
Oh, you have a videotape? Okay.
I mean, I'm recording this.
So
it'll come around 1 hour and 18 minutes around that. Okay.
So I'm passionate about social media. I want to help companies grow by leveraging their social media data.
You keep your message simple.
Okay.
I help, like, let's say you're having a conversation with somebody. This is something you got to realize that when you're networking with people, like when you talk to my daughter, and she says, so Spencer, what do you do? What you're going to say is, well, her name is Gopi. I said, I like to help companies grow by leveraging their social media data. Okay.
Yeah.
So now the narrative is that I first got into this. Again, I'm choppy right now, but when you're talking, it has to come across more conversational, right?
Absolutely.
It all started, by the way, when I was in NYU. And I took several courses, and I realized that this is what I liked. And then I got an opportunity to apply what I had learned in college, because in college you take a course and then you move on. And I did a little bit of it in college and some other places, but I didn't really get to apply it in a company setting. That happened when I joined Den of Geek. That's when I really got applying all the social media stuff. And I realized that marketing is a broad area. And I realized the area that really piqued my interest and that got me excited and passionate was the social media marketing.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right. And now I'm trying to take it to the next level by learning more, applying more, and adding more value to a company so that they can continue to grow. Because remember, your narrative has to support that something is in it for them. Because your message was that you help companies grow. And the only way you can grow is that you got started, you learned about it, and now you're constantly learning more. And there's like an iterative element to this.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Right. So that's one thing. The other thing that I didn't get to ask you because we ran out of time there, because I wanted to keep it half hour, is what are some complex business problems you solve and how do you go about solving them? Now, that may never really come up in an interview where the way I'm asking you may never be asked like that, but the burden is on you. When somebody hires you, they're hiring you for one thing. They're hiring you to come in and solve problems.
Absolutely.
So the question is, you're going to have to feed it to them that I consider myself a problem solver. And let me give you an example of a problem that I worked on. And part of problem is how did you define the problem? What was the problem? Who actually defined the problem? Don't get into the solution, because solution is an easy thing that everybody gets to, but that's not the most important thing. Identifying the problem, really understanding the cause of the problem, right? Then look at all the different solutions, potential solutions, and how did you narrow down to this solution? That doesn't solve anything either, because now you have to go and make the case with the higher ups before they support it. Right? So you need some kind of a case that you have in your pocket that you can bring up, whether from Den of Geek, most likely it'll be Den of Geek, where you actually help solve a complex, not that you're by yourself had to solve it, but how were you involved in solving this problem? What was your role? And then what was the lessons that you learned from that? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely makes sense.
Because the thing is, at the end of the day, when they hire you, you could have degree from NYU, you could have worked and done some miracles at Den of Geek. That's not going to rule the day. What's going to rule the day is they have to be convinced that you are indeed the kind of problem solver that they're looking for.
Absolutely. Yeah, that sounds really good.
Right? I mean, because that's a very important thing, because the companies are really looking for you to come in and solve some real critical business problems. Now, you might say, well, I'm just going for a social media. Companies don't care. Problems can be solved by anybody. And the more you talk about it, it elevates your status. If you talk about problems, that you see trends, you see things, you're constantly looking for ways to improve the way they're doing things. But be careful. Do it in a way that you're going to do it in a team atmosphere. At the end, you're a team player. And I think you get that pretty much. You get that pretty well, that you're a team player.
Yes.
Right? Does that make sense? And the other thing is the skills part. I think you addressed that pretty well. There are 3 types of skills that I think of. Okay, and see if you agree. The hard skills you already know, right? So you have to kind of lead with hard skills. See, when you want to get into a company, they're going to hire you essentially because of hard skills.
Yeah.
Because the soft skills, they think that if your hard skills are so good that you automatically, whether this is right or not, but this is how it is. If you have a tremendous hard skills where you talk about that, I know Google Analytics, here's how I used this part of Google Analytics, and here's what you need a one case study where you can really showcase your hard skills. You can talk about your hard skills, okay? Because if you can talk about the hard skills, that validates something, that this guy knows his stuff.
Yeah.
He knows his, if I may use S, he knows his S, okay? They have to be convinced that this guy knows his S, okay? If he knows it, then what they'll say is that, but I'm not sure whether he's a good, because here's the thing, if you know your technical stuff, they automatically assume that you're already a good communicator.
Absolutely.
Right? So when people say, well, I have good soft skills, it doesn't matter. If you can't explain the hard skills well, then the soft skills are not going to matter. You can't just say, well, I'm a great communicator, I'm a great collaborator, but I don't know, but I didn't convince you that I really know how to use Google Analytics or Adobe Creative Cloud. So you really, really need to sell them on your hard skills. Because once you sell them on the hard skills, they automatically will say, oh, this guy has good soft skills, because you look at the way he explained me the hard skills. Right?
Absolutely.
And the third skill is the access skills. And this kind of access means that if there's anything that you're doing, you have an NYU alumni network or anything, that gives you certain access that I don't have. I didn't go to NYU, so I don't get access to the NYU alumni network or anything that NYU is doing. They might have some kind of marketing club, or you might still be involved in working with NYU. There are certain things that you have access to that other people don't. And when you have access, that means that now you can kind of bridge the two, right? You can bridge them on how you can add value with your hard skills and soft skills. So do you actually utilize the NYU network at all? Or I think you do, right?
Yes, I apply through several jobs through NYU Handshake.
Right. No, I mean, people who have gone to NYU and just kind of network with them and see how.
Absolutely.
Right. So these are the things that I think, was there anything else that I may come up with more, but I think this video, I want you to, once I send it to you, I'll put it on YouTube under unlisted so nobody else will be able to view it. And I will send you the link, and I want you to go through it. And what I'll do is, the way you answer the question, I will go through each one of them and see if there's any better way you can answer them.
Yeah.
So that way you will have, this is just my input, okay, on how I would answer it. So that way you can then say, yeah, these are things I need to work on so that when I go for my next job, I'm completely prepared. Because what you don't want to do is, so here's a trick. You don't really want to think when you go for a job interview. If you're well prepared, then you really don't have to think there. Some of them you have to, right? Some of them you have no choice. Like 80% of it should be kind of, you're very well prepared, and 20% you're going to be kind of ad hoc. You're going to have to contrive an answer for the 20% of the questions. But if it's like 50-50, then it's going to be hard to come across well when you have to think. I don't think people are good at thinking on their feet. You can only think on your feet if you're prepared to think on your feet. So I want you to be, and I think what I'm noticing from last year to this year, you're much more confident with your answers.
Absolutely.
But I just think now that confidence is there. Now the question is, you need to take those answers. What I'm noticing is, you know the answers, but that's not enough. You got to take it, that knowing that answers, and now taking it so that I understand it, and then you have to package it in a way that makes it easier for me to understand. I think that's the only thing kind of missing that I'm seeing. And I'm not all of them. I think you're almost there, but some of the questions, I think if you package it well, if you like structure it well, like on problem solving, which I didn't ask you, but if you can structure the problem solving, if you can structure on communication. So let me explain you, as you can start out, communication is extremely important in companies. Without communication, you can't function. But then take it to the next level. How do you get to the next level, and then a next level, and then wrap it up? So I'm trying to think in terms of like structure your answers so that the other person really gets it. And then you can say, if they have any follow-up, does that make sense? Like you see, every time I kept on asking you, does that make sense? Right? So after each answer, you can ask, does that make sense? Is there anything you want me to elaborate further?
Yes.
I didn't hear you say that, but that's something I would like you to do that. That, Jay, am I making sense? Or Jay, do I need to elaborate more on this? And I would say, yeah, can you elaborate more on it? So have that, because remember, the burden is on you to make them understand who you are, what you have, and why should I care? Those are 3 questions, right? Who you are, what you have, and why should I care? And if you focus on those 3 questions, then you have done. Then the next area, which we didn't cover here because I didn't have a particular job description here, is that they could ask this question right off the bat, and you got to nail this question. And this is not an easy question. You know, that question about tell me about yourself, that you can answer with these 3 questions: who you are, what you have, and why should I care? Okay. But the question that stumps a lot of people from entry level all the way to people who are running for president of the United States is, why do you want this job? That's not an easy question. You can't wing it. You just can't wing it in that question. Why do you want this job? So I will send this notes to you. And then when it gets to a company, a specific job, the first question there is, do you even understand the job? Very important, right? Then the second question is, can you do the job? Okay. Then the third question is, do you want the job? Right? And that it gets, so I always look at it this way. There is the part about showing up. There's a part about standing out. And then if you stand out, then you can secure a job offer. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right. Looks like you're kind of falling asleep there. So do you have any questions for me?
Can I email you if I come up with any more?
Yeah. You can email me. Just keep the dialogue going. I mean, I'll let you go in a minute or two. So let's just say we have some action items. Okay. Wow. So first action item is I'll send you a presentation, and then I'll also send you the link. Okay. So I have a presentation that I don't think you have seen. I'll send it to you. That addresses these 3 questions: who you are, what you have, and why should I care? Mm-hmm. Okay, and then I'll send you the link to this call, and then I'll look at the questions that you answered, the 30-minute mock interview, and see if there's anything I can do to tweak some things so that you get an idea. Okay.
Thank you. That sounds fantastic.
Thank you. You have an action item of sending me that writing. That input inverse thing that you worked on?
I definitely will.
And send me your updated resume.
I will.
And anything else you can think of?
No, I'll send the writing samples of my updated resume tonight. Okay.
So if you have any other questions, send me an email, and I got some work to do.
And thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Okay, and enjoy the Super Bowl and focus. And tell me after anything marketing that you come across. I'd like to get your perspective on what you found was interesting from a marketing standpoint. Who did it well? Who didn't?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Because I want you to start becoming a thought leader.
Yes.
You got to act like a thought leader in marketing. You got to tell me things that I don't know about marketing.
Absolutely.
Like Jay, there are things I'm not getting that from you. Like there are things in social media that you should be able to tell me, Jay, you may know this or you may not, but there's something in social media that I've learned that you might find useful. You got to act like a thought leader, that there's certain things that that would help other people. Because once you come across like a thought leader, people take you much more seriously. It adds to your gravitas.
Absolutely. You're right.
All right, Spencer, if no other questions, then I'll talk to you later.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
All right. Bye.